Hey guys, I got a word for you. It's 11:28. We'll see if I can talk fast enough to crowd it in here. And just nobody even said, nobody told me not to. Okay, you're excited about the word? I'm convinced that you're one Bible away from a revival. Buy a Bible, mark it up. You'll find stuff you didn't know before. I'm convinced that the Bible is this great story of God's love for us. It's this great story of how He loves us, sent His Son to die for us, and that His Son, through the work of the grace of His Son, we've been adopted and filled with His Spirit, and that we can live in a flourishing way here on this planet. We can have a human experience that supersedes anybody else's expectations. I love the prophet Jeremiah, who says, I know the thoughts and the plans that I have for you, thoughts of peace. Wow. Thoughts of a future and hope. Did you know God is thinking about your peace, your future, and your hope? When He's thinking about you, He's not thinking about how bad you are. That He's not frowning at you. That He's smiling at you. That He loves you and that He cares for you. And that every time He gives you a commandment, He also gives you His Spirit and gives you the ability to fulfill that reality. I am one of those spontaneous series preachers. Everything in the last several years, the kids have tried to help me, and it hasn't worked. I'm just untrainable. I'm too old. You know how they say you can teach a dog, old dog new? No, I can't. They keep wanting me to sit down with them every 6-7 months and come up with these series that tie together so Lucas can make this cute little stuff and we can market it. And you've got to be joking. I fall into these spontaneous series. I mean, I open my mouth and something comes out and I go, oh, that was good. I'll make a series out of that next week. And Lucas goes, I know you all think Lucas is procrastinating and behind. No, I ain't sharing nothing with him. This morning I said, Lucas, hey, I sent you my sermon and I said, I want you to throw this up on the screen. He goes, you sent it when? I said, this morning. I said, what's your problem? I left the house at 8:15, got here at 8:30. I'm in the middle of one of those spontaneous series, and I think it might be apropos, prophetic. I'm going to come out of Luke's Gospel, the 9th chapter. I'm going to read one verse. I'm going to go to John chapter 9. Both Luke and John are reminiscing over the same moment in history. And so I'm going to read one verse from Luke, and then I'm going to go to John and read more there. But we're going to start with Luke chapter 9, verse 51. One little verse, Luke 9, 51. Now it came to pass when the time had come. Say the time had come. One translation said, time's up. Say, time's up. Time's changed. And it came to pass in the midst of about 3 years and 3 months. I mean, it came to pass. He's been doing good and healing all. And all of a sudden, he got a word from the Father, time's up. And things are shifting. They're moving. They're changing. Times are altering. And for him to be received up, say up, he going home. I know we look at it now backwards and see the cross. He said, I'm going up. He said, time's changed. I got to go up. I got to be received up. That he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem. Have you ever had one of those moments in your life that it changed everything and you had to focus in? That time changed and all of a sudden all these distractions that you've been tolerating and all the things you've been doing suddenly become not as important as they were a moment ago because something changed. I'm pregnant. The declaration that I'm with child can alter everyone in the family's life. Just ask my 3-year-old grandson in New York. He's waiting for mommy and daddy to show up and take Jameson somewhere. He wants his mommy and daddy. Well, we're his mommy and daddy. No, he has a mommy. See, there are things that can happen and seasons change. And when they change, it alters everything that's going. And Jesus is at a party, at a feast. He's been doing all these things. And all of a sudden, he looks up and his face, his expression is altered. And he says, I'm going forward. Say forward. Last week, I talked to you about going the wrong way down a one-way street. You can't go that way. You have to walk this way. You have to go one way. You can't live in the past. You got to live in the future. Life moves forward. It's the only way to live it is to walk forward. There's so many people trying to cling to the past rather straining to the future. And, wherever you face, your feet will follow. Your feet determine where you're going, but your face determines where your feet go. I ride motorcycles, and my friend Dale is always telling me that I don't focus and pay attention, and that I have to focus in order to follow. And then he's always giving me lessons. He gives me these lessons. He said, Quentin, if wherever you look on the highway, that's where this motorcycle is going to go. If you look there, you're going to go there. So you need to look where you want to be, because wherever you look, that's where you're going to go, because your outlook is going to determine your outcome. And Jesus set his face in a direction towards a cross, towards a crucifixion, towards a death, towards ministry was changing. Life was changing. It was going to alter. And Paul said, one thing I do, I forget and I press. I strain, I lean. Well, Mary chose the one thing necessary. The former blind guy said, one thing I know, I was, but I'm not. I mean, David said, one thing I desire, that will I seek. I got to face that way. I can't look this way anymore. I got to go. I'm not looking to the left nor to the right. Christians, hear me. Christianity's not working in your life, not because there's a flaw with it, but because you're not focused. Because whatever you focus on, that's where you're going to go. Time has changed. You're going to have to focus differently. Times are changing in our country. There's only one way to look, and that's you can't look in the rearview mirror. There's a reason why the rearview mirror is this big and the windshield is this big. It takes more looking forward than it looks backwards. What's behind you is over. It's not coming back. You can try to make it come back, but it ain't coming back. You are not 21 anymore. You are 51, and it don't look cool on you. I see some of my friends, and I think, it might have looked good when you were 21, but skinny don't fit you now. Hello? Well, we're trying to be relevant. You just look irreverent. I'm just saying. You need a friend, lady. A mirror or a friend. One of the two. You need somebody to go, you need to rethink that. Say with me, it ain't coming back. Jesus said, I go ahead of you to prepare a place. See, he's ahead of us. He's in our future. The reason we can look forward to tomorrow is because he's out there. And you're going to miss it by going, the best is yet to come. We were designed to live moving forward. We were designed to face forward. We were designed to be able to recognize what time it is in our lives and live in that time. Not living yesterday, really, not living yet tomorrow, but live. He set his face steadfastly, resolutely, determinedly. He took courage and said, I gotta live because I got a mission. You know, I grew up in a different time. I grew up in a time when Mr. Pettigene could paddle your behind. I grew up in a time that in the 7th grade, they corrected your attitude with a paddle that had scriptures on it. Some of you are in church for the first time going, oh my God, they believe in beating children. No, I'm just saying they beat me. And I had one of them dads, so if there's something wrong with me, it's because I grew up in a different... And not only did they paddle me in school, if I went home and my dad found out they paddled me, he paddled me too. I grew up in a different world, Mr. Pettigene, and grab your ankles. No, grab your ankles. No. And then when I got to high school, there was Mr. Peterson, and Mr. Peterson would not tolerate somebody talking in his class. And my God, we were sophomores. And so he'd go to the blackboard, and he'd draw this little circle in the blackboard, but the circle was always about 3 inches taller than you were. And you had to put your nose in the circle. And sometime before the end of the year was over, everybody... Mr. Peterson, I wasn't the one. You didn't want to sit next to somebody that... You didn't have assigned seats in Mr. Peterson's class. He gave you the brains to figure out who not to sit by. If you walked in and had to sit by Donnie, you were... Never mind. But one of the greatest things about being in Mr. Peterson's class and putting your nose in that circle was we had this game, and it was like sneaking a peek. There's a lot of Christians I know that can't keep their nose in their circle. They keep trying to sneak a peek. Can I tell you, Lot's wife says, you shouldn't look back. I know, 3 of you are going, who's Lot's wife? Well, we use her for seasoning today. That's terrible. He's up here critiquing me. So you can't sneak back. You got to keep looking forward. Listen, some of you ought to thank God that you're not alive in 1968 going to school in Sebre because they would be paddling. Oh, never mind. I love my kids. I love people that have kids. You know, they're always going, oh, I wish they were still babies. You know, they're about 18, 17. I wish they were babies. Hey, I can help you. Go to lunch with us today at Chili's. The 2-year-old will have a blowout, and the 4-year-old will be throwing food across the table. You don't want it to go back to when they were 2. I grew up with outhouses. It was not good. It's not good. Everybody's looking back like that's the best. No, the best is ahead of us. We're going to go from glory to glory, faith to faith. We're going to get brighter and brighter every day. He is ahead of us in our future. He is predetermined where I'm going to live. He is setting it up. I don't even have to call that couple out of Texas to redo my house. Jesus is doing my house. Oh, well. Touch your neighbor, say, times are changing. John tells the story this way, John chapter 12, verse 20. He says, now there were some Greeks in town who had come up to worship. Have you ever been with Greek people? You ever seen the movie, The Big Fat Greek Wedding? Let me tell you, Greeks know how to party. I mean, they start out hot from the beginning. They know how to get her down. I mean, the Greeks came to the party. So we were at a feast, and the Greeks showed up. And they know how to get down. And they approached Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee. Sir, we want to see Jesus. Can you help us? And Philip went and told Andrew, and Andrew went and told. Philip is a scaredy cat. He ain't asking for nothing. He gonna go, you ask him, I ain't asking him. Last time they were here, they stayed. No. Philip, I ain't asking him. I mean, the last time they came in, the other thing about Greeks is they know how to debate. If you don't believe me, I'll take you to the Greek Orthodox Church next week and let you debate with the Greek Orthodox. Because I'm telling you, Greeks know how to party, and they never come to a conclusion. Jesus had spent 3.5 years going from party to party and from debate to debate. But times change. And Jesus answered and said, time's up. The time has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Touch your neighbor and say, glorified. He didn't take the meeting. He said, I hadn't got time. The schedule's full. This dude that had been interrupted by a woman who had been sick for many years because he was headed to Jairus' house. This man had always been able to be interrupted. He never turned anybody away. He called the guy out of the tree. He returned to Bartimaeus. All of a sudden, something changed. He said, no, I ain't got time for that no more. Listen, I once was a child, but then I became, and I put away childish things. Church, you listen to me. This is not the time to be drinking milk. We are living in an age where you need some mature word. You need to be calling some people and say, you need to get away from 3 poems and a prayer. You need to know what to eat that'll help you live through some times that are going on in America and in the world. And that little simple little dimple stuff ain't going to work no more. We got to wean you from that and feed you something. Oh, well, I'll just move back over here. Time's up. I can't, Philip, Andrew, I haven't got time for that meeting. The debate is over. I've got to go. It's time for glory. Did you get it? Touch your neighbor and say, it's time for the glory of God to be revealed in the mess of humanity. It's time for God to make himself known in the midst of the Pharisaical Greek. It's time for God to step into the middle of a world that's gone crazy and let himself be seen. Man, some of you have been listening to so much news you don't even understand. This is a great time. You're trying to solve something that can only be fixed by Him. Listen carefully. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dead to the world, it will never any more than a grain of wheat. But if it is buried, it would sprout and reproduce itself many times over. This is a strange way to respond. We're asking for a meeting with Jesus, and He wants to talk about wheat farming. Could you just give me a straight answer? Isn't it funny? Jesus never gives people straight answers. He tells them a story. I mean, can you imagine these people are going to walk away and go, huh? Did you get to meet with Him? No. What'd you find out? Something about wheat farming. Have you ever heard from God? But I got all the time people come, if I could just hear from God, you wouldn't understand. He would talk above you. His thoughts are higher than your thoughts. His ways are higher than your ways. If He answers you, you'd still be going, huh? I got people all the time saying, you just need to simplify it, Pastor. You need to come out of and make it simple. When you figure out how to do that, this dude made the universe. I just want you to know He ain't dumbing it down for you. He's trying to get you to come up. He's already been here and dumbed it down. Now He's got you and He's trying to move you as a child. You come as a child, but you ain't supposed to stay as a child. And He's going to try to take up. That's the problem with the American church is you're a bunch of... No. Of course not you on the line. No, you, not you. I'm just getting started. And in the same way, what's He saying? Okay, I'm going to talk to you about the natural grain, and now that I'm going to move out of the picture of the grain and go in the same way. Say, in the same way. Anyone who holds on to life just as it is destroys that life. If you think things are going to stay just the way they are, let me introduce you to my oldest son, who is now 30-something or other. It was much easier when he was 3 or 15. Life never stays the same. And if you're trying to hold on to it and keep it looking like it did in 1950, you will never. It don't even look the same from a year ago. If you hold on to it, you'll destroy it. You have to hold life loosely because it was given to you by He who is life. And if you don't believe me, you come walk with me this afternoon. I'll go see my friend Bruce. He's believing God for another glorious day today. Every day is a gift from God. This is the day the Lord has made. I will be glad. I'll rejoice in it. I am grateful for this day. I better hold it loosely because I'm not in charge. And if you don't allow today to be a day that is given to Him and given to others, but if you let it go, touch your neighbor and say, let it go. Commercial. If you didn't get last week, I'd get last week because I talked about let it go. But if you let it go, reckless in your love. That's the problem in our society today is we're not recklessly loving one another. Recklessly loving people that could reject our love. Love people that are different from you. Love people without expecting to get anything in return. Just respect the right that every person is made in the image and the likeness of God. Therefore, they are worthy of your love. Even if they be your enemy, love them and be reckless. On my epitaph, He recklessly loved people. If you recklessly love people, you could run the risk of being hurt, maybe even crucified. But recklessly loving because you're holding life, you'll have it forever, real and eternal. This is the New Living Translation. If any of you wants to serve me, then follow me. Then you will be where I am, ready to serve on a moment's notice. Listen to me. This is a time when God's people need to be ready to serve on a moment's notice. All of you charismatic, woohoo people out there, well, I'll pray about it. Time's up. You don't get to pray about it. You have been called to service. This is a different time. You don't get to choose what you do with your life. Your life is not your own. It belongs to another. There is only one agenda and one purpose, and that is to love the world and to reach them with the gospel. Your little... I am a Pentecostal. I am a charismatic. But listen, you're using your emotions as an excuse not to serve. Time's up. It's time to be received. It's time to go to the cross. It's time to understand this is a time when the world needs followers of Jesus to reveal the love and the grace of God. This is not a time for us to shrink back. You see, the opposite of hate is not love, it is indifference. We do not have the right to be indifferent to the challenges that face us as a society, nor us as a world. This is not a place where you come in here and I pat you on the back and motivate you to go make more money to put in your retirement. No, I have one assignment. I am called to share with you the love, the grace, the mercy of God that brings you into a kingdom and now release you on a world so that you can announce the good news to Jesus. Am I? And if that's not what you want from me, this probably... Say with me, to serve on a moment's notice. I'm so proud of you. Listen to me, I'm so proud of you. I was out of town this week. Bruce Bachman took a turn for the worse. I'm telling you, you showered them with food. You covered them up. I walked into the house yesterday morning and people from extended family was going, oh my God, who are you people? You don't even know them. But you have revealed the love of God because you made a casserole. Because you took tomatoes. And you did it unto the least. You did it to people in the midst of one of the most difficult things that can be happening as dad and husband. Wow. And that is serving on a moment's notice. That is real church. That is real life. And if you think, well, my care group, listen, this is... I ain't having cliques in here. Love you, but I don't believe in that. We all for one. Yeah, somebody go, what? Right now, I'm storm-tossed. How many of you feel like you're facing a storm? The wind is blowing right in the face, and every time you can get, the waters get rough again. About the time you get through this news cycle, another news cycle. I got news for you. There'll be another one next week. Because they got to keep you watching. You don't understand. The only reason we can keep the news on the news is because they're selling you Viagra. Do you understand that the pharmaceutical industry is buying more news advertising time than any other advertiser in the world? So while you're watching the bad news that the world is coming to an end, they're selling you Viagra. And so we got to come up with some other earth-shattering thing next week so that you'll tune back in and buy more. You're going, I don't use that. You come back next week, I'll pick on your drug. What's your drug of choice? Well, I am storm-tossed. I am facing stuff. Life is tough. We're in the middle. He turned his face to go towards Jerusalem, and the storm began. The wind was blowing in his face. He said, I'm storm-tossed. What am I going to say? Father, get me out of this. No, this is why I came in the first place. Listen, if you're going through a storm-tossed time, you don't start praying, oh God, why is this happening to me? Get me out of this mess. No, if you're going into the wind, you're probably going in the right direction. Because he doesn't want you to get into the future where God has prepared for you. He's going to try to resist you getting there. So if you're facing a storm, you're probably, if there's a giant standing there, keep going. Because giants are the signposts that you're headed in the right direction. He said, I'm storm-tossed. What am I going to say? Listen, I really do believe that what we say in the midst of difficult times matter. I really do believe that words are the power of life and death. I really do believe that words are creative and that what you say in the midst of those moments when the times have changed and the storms will blow, in the midst of those issues, what we say. Am I going to say, Father, get me out of this? No. I will say, Father, put your glory on display. Wow! What am I going to say? Oh my God, the world's going down. This is the moment when the glory of God will shine the brightest. It's in the midst of the division and the divisiveness, in the midst of the turmoil, when sin abounds, grace much more abounds. Listen to me, my friends. The glory of God is about to be revealed by the people of God who decide to set their face to follow Jesus. If you'll make it, and you may need to set your face towards your marriage. You may need to set your face towards your children. You maybe just need to set your face in your world. Listen, maybe you just need to make another casserole and call Kara and say, I got one ready. I'm not asking you to go to Africa. I'm asking you to notice the people here. I'm asking you just to pay attention and to set your face and to focus and to understand that we're following Jesus and that Jesus understood that when time changes, verse 31, and at this moment the world is in crisis. Now Satan, the ruler of this world, will be thrown out. Am I in your... The world is in crisis. Satan's been in charge, but I'm going to a cross. I'm going to a place, and I'm going to obey and endure it, because on the other side of the cross is a joy. On the other side of that is a future where the enemy doesn't run the world. On the other side of my obedience, am I making sense? He didn't love the experience of the cross, but he loved what the cross was going to bring. So he reached into the future and caught the vision, the feeling of a post-Christ cross world, and he grabbed it. And he said, that'll empower me to live in this moment. He reached into the future and said, when I'm done on the cross, we're going to be together again. And so I'm going to reach through the storm and grab the results of... Touch your neighbor and say, face forward. To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose, and yet God has made everything beautiful in its own time. This is a scary time, but if we will pay attention to what God is doing, we will understand that He is taking us into something that is greater than we've ever known before. But we have to resist the temptation to follow the world. We have to resist the temptation to allow the culture to shape us. We must remember that we are followers of Christ, not followers of the rhetoric of the world. We are followers of the God that came and gave His life for us, that we might give our life to Him. We are people of the cross. When I was a kid, they don't do it as much now, we interrupt this regularly scheduled program. I hated that. They always came on in the middle of Major Astro. I know you're all going, who? It's all right. We interrupt your regularly scheduled program. Time's up. God's interrupting. He's interrupting us. He's interrupting our world. If you think that what Brandon's doing is odd, it's because God is interrupting our regularly scheduled lives. If you think that what Polly's doing is odd, it's because God is interrupting regularly scheduled lives. God is interrupting our lives and saying, it's time for you. It's time for you. It's time for you. When Annie and I heard a certain thing in 1985, it interrupted our world. We put everything we had in a horse trailer and came to Hutchinson. I wished I could tell you that it's been the only time God has interrupted my life. But I can tell you several times that God has interrupted my life and said, I want you to go there and do that. And I said, but I thought I was supposed to go here. So I'm supposed to quit this and go do that. He goes, oh, no, I want you to do that too. And altered my world. You see, when God says to you, time's up, it'll alter your marriage, it'll alter your children, it'll alter everything in your world. Because generally when God's saying something to you, he's saying something to other people around you. So if God's telling me to go visit with people that nobody ever gets to visit to, he's probably telling you to do something so that I can go do what I got to do. Because see, he calls the people. He doesn't call me. So if he calls Jesus, he calls us. You don't get an individual calling because there is no such thing as your ministry. It's called the ministry of reconciliation. It's his ministry to which he'll share a little bitty piece of you. You don't get to dream up your own direction. It's one direction. I'm so tired of people, well, God told me. Well, shut up. Because it's probably not the same. Never mind. I better move on. I get smart aleck. You know, while I'm down that road, while we're out here, right? I mean, I was reading, just if he's going to correct me, I'm going to correct you. I was reading in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, and Paul is going down this list of, idolaters and sexual immoral people, and I'm going, yeah. And then he goes, and grumblers. Could I have a highlighter in black? Grumblers. He put grumblers in the same text as sexual immoral people. He said, and grumblers. You see, most people, if God speaks to you to do something, you start grumbling about it. You're grumbling. We're called to live grateful lives, but we're too busy grumbling to be grateful. Oh, there I go. Do everything without grumbling. You got to be kidding me. I do everything with grumbling. Most of the time, our storm-tossed experience is not helped by our grumbling. None of this is helping you, is it? It's just, Jesus would not be distracted. He kept moving forward. When I read Jesus, it's 12 o'clock. You give me 10 minutes? Can I crowd into lunch? So I'm going to just crowd you. Yeah, I would have been here sooner, but we go to that. I do want you to know, I'm tired of people painting me as weird. I really am. I'm tired of a community that paints me as odd. I'm wired. I'm not weird. If you don't have this kind of passion, you need to get it. It's hard to live without this kind of. Anyway, let me get back. I love Jesus saying stuff and Paul living it out. And Paul writes to Timothy and he goes, I'm already being poured out like a drink offering. I have fought the fight. I have kept the faith, and there is laid up a crown of righteousness for me and for all of those who are looking forward to his appearing. See, what's happened in America today is we have lost one of the foundational values of Christianity. Jesus is coming again. I promise you, he said, if I go, I will come. He is coming again. And Paul said, I'm going to be able to go over there and let them lop off my head because I am looking forward to the appearing of Jesus. And because I'm looking forward to being close to Jesus, I can tolerate, endure today because I know he is coming. I get it. We have lost this truth. We have changed theology. And can I tell you something? Bad theology is like pornography. It'll give you hope of something that it cannot deliver on. You hear me. There are people, you'll get that in a minute. You gotta speed up. There are people today that have jettisoned the return of Jesus because it's a response to the extreme of the escapism theology that I was taught as a child. I was taught as a child that we didn't have to drill water wells. We didn't have to take care of the poor. We didn't have to do that because, after all, we're escaping out of here. So we just went somewhere with Bob Jones and drank Kool-Aid and escaped. Some of you are going, I don't know what he's talking about. But you ought to hear it from in here. If you think it's, never mind. And listen, I understand that you have heard an escapism, rapture theology that has left us wanting. I'm not talking about that. I am talking about a healthy understanding that he who went into our future is coming out of our future to get us again. And that in the knowing of that, it gives me it empowers me to live now, to endure the storm and the time today. Because we're not going to be separated forever. That's right. You hear me? I can do what I do this afternoon with the man that I love because I know there is an abundant entrance prepared for him into heaven. Because I know. You see, the problem is that when Paul writes Timothy, they were only about 30, 35 years removed from his disappearing. So they could imagine his reappearing. Today, we're 2,000 years removed, and we have no imagination for Jesus just going. See, I'm just going to ask you a question. If I told you that next Sunday at about 11:15, Jesus was going to appear. Next Sunday, 11:15, Jesus is going to appear. Would it affect the way you live this week? Would it change your schedule? Would it cause you to call somebody and say, I'm sorry? Would it cause you to be more aware of the little girl behind the counter and you saying, hey, Jesus loves you? Would it change your treatment of other people? Would you spend a little more moments in prayer? If I were to tell you Jesus was going to be here next Sunday at 11:15, would it alter and affect your life? See, I believe that if you live in the understanding that he is in our future and he's coming to take us to our future, that it might cause us to be nicer, kinder, healthier, happier, more focused. Instead of being, I was standing in the mall in Westchester County, New York. This is Squirrel. Westchester County. And this lady nearly killed my 3-year-old grandson twice. And then I looked around, everybody in the place was, boom, and she likes to run over the 3-year-old. Then she comes back and nearly runs over him again. And I'm going, look up. I'm the dude from Kansas going, look, you stupid New Yorker, look up. I wanted to grab it and go, it's called a smartphone, dummy. It's a smartphone, but it ain't being used by. I see a lot of Christians going, my world, my world, my world, my world, my world, my world, my world. Maybe you ought to get a picture of his world. Just saying. If I were to tell you Jesus was returning, see, maybe we need to recover one of the truths that is paramount to our faith. Jesus is coming again. Are you facing the past? Or are you facing the future? Are you more committed to yesterday or tomorrow? I know I've got to close. So I will close with the last verse in the Bible. John 22, Revelation 22:20. He who testifies of these things says, surely I am coming quickly. I mean, he's ending the book by going, surely, I promise you. I'm coming into the rhetoric of the divisiveness of the political nature of the world. I'm coming into the debate of Korea and America. I'm coming into the debate of the church. I'm coming. You hear me. The world can't solve these problems. That's right. That's right. There is no solution that you can give. Jesus can. That's it. Surely I am coming quickly. And Jesus says, amen, Lord. Come quickly. And the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, Not Quentin's grace, not your grace, but the grace of Jesus that died on a cross and rose again. The mercy of God be upon you all. Yeah. Church, could I just suggest to you that we've wandered away from one of the basic foundational truths of the church? Come, Lord Jesus. Instead of offering solutions based on our opinions that we have confused with facts, maybe we ought to be a sign of Jesus, who set his face to obey the Father. And just keep looking forward. Preach the word in season and out of season. Do the work of an evangelist. Encourage one another. Edify one another. Forgive one another. Amen. Let the news of his coming and his return resonate in your soul. And live a life that's got its face forward. I apologize, but I did that in 9 minutes. Would you just stand with me?